Previously on Ballz.
They make over R1 million a month selling burri rolls from one of the casinos up here. Just normal sausage roll, R1 million turnover.
Gee, Bash, you're in the wrong business, pal.
Definitely.
Yeah. Time for burri. Right. Well, listen, thanks for taking a few minutes to chat to us. It's been quiet on the Sharks front the last couple of days here at Ballz, but it's understandable, of course. Focus on the Currie Cup champions. And you said to me when we did phone you now, you're sore, but you're getting your head around it.
Yeah, it's been a tough couple of days. You know, we've been in the last three finals, the Lions last year, and then the Super 15, and this one, the cherry on the top, you know, so it's been a couple hard days, but I guess that's part of it, you know, and finals are one-offs, and it doesn't matter where you've been throughout the campaign, you get one opportunity in a final, and unfortunately we weren't good enough on the day.
Yeah, you know, this has come up time again, and yesterday it was also mentioned in one of our discussions about the Sharks didn't pitch up, and the Sharks didn't look hungry, and I said, it's you know, because I mean it has bitten all teams before, where you go to a game thinking, well, you're overwhelming favourites, and you know, kind of have that overconfident air maybe, and you know, it's happened before where teams have been bitten by having that. I said I can't understand how any team would go into any game, let alone a final, knowing what can happen, not being hungry to win the game. Surely that wasn't the case with the Sharks.
One thing I can promise you is it wasn't for a lack of hunger or anything. You know, we had a really good week's preparation, and that's the first place from a coaching perspective. You always go and you try and go back on the week and make sure that you had all the boxes ticked, and we felt we had a really good preparation. We thought that semi-final we were gathering nice momentum against the Bulls, and we had integrated our box pretty well back. We thought everything was in the right place, and like I said earlier, it's the one thing, the beauty of sports is that it's on the day, so it doesn't matter what the papers or everyone says about favourites and underdogs. On any given day, if you get it wrong and the other side grows in confidence, and that anything can happen, you know, and that's, I guess, the beauty of sport.
Yeah. And look, I mean, you guys started, you pretty much controlled the game, built up a nice 9-point lead. Given, I mean, let's put it straight out there, Province didn't faze them at all. They stuck to their guns. But do you feel the Sharks kind of let the comment was made that when they had chances, they didn't execute them, didn't finish them, and that basically let Province back into the game. And eventually they put pressure on you guys, and the Sharks didn't handle the pressure as well as they should have.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. You know, you're right. We were 12-3 up, and things were going well, and Province managed the heat, because first 20 minutes we were looking after the ball pretty well, and putting them under heaps of pressure, but they defended pretty well, and that's one thing of theirs that's been pretty good all year as well, was the defence. And we were getting penalties, and Pat kicked beautifully and didn't miss a kick in the whole game, you know, so it was just about for us maintaining that pressure, but what we started to miss a few line-outs, and that looked like it affected our confidence, you know, so every time we got the ball or kicked the ball out, they were backing themselves to win the line-outs, and we felt we couldn't get any momentum going in that second half. And you know what it's like when the confidence starts to go, and you start looking around and you realise the enormity of the occasion. One thing leads to the next, and I think we had 22 handling errors on the day, which for us is not normal. And also, I mean, our defensive record on the weekend was 93%, but we made one mistake that cost us 7 points. It was one of those games where every little mistake we made cost us, you know, and they took advantage of that and grew with the confidence it gave them.
The line-out was the key. I mean, when you suddenly, you know, because then suddenly when you get the ball and you think, and I mean that's a situation you don't want to be in a team environment, is when you get the ball and you think, geez, do we kick it out now or must we keep it in play, because our line-out is under serious pressure. I mean, that's got to put a massive spanner into your spokes.
Well, it did. I mean, let's not hide the fact. I mean, we're very disappointed with the way it went, and you know, it's part of when you get a penalty and you kick it out, you sort of walk to the line-up and you think, here we go, we can launch our next attack, and we weren't able to do that, because even though it was our ball, we ended up defending again. So you can't get any momentum and you can't build any pressure, and then what they did is they started kicking out and backing themselves to win our ball as well. So it becomes difficult to get territory, and when you do get it, you're not winning the ball. So the whole time in that second half, we just felt like we were defending and under pressure and couldn't get our game going. I think with 5 minutes to go, we started playing out of our own half when we did have the ball and having to play a bit more high-risk rugby, and it sort of suited us. I mean, we had that opportunity in the end where Louis passed to Charles, who got tackled, and that offload to Pat. He didn't manage to hang on to the ball, but if we had scored that and had to go into extra time, I think anything could have happened, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. From a lineup point of view, what was the discussion afterwards? I mean, what actually went wrong there? Is it a sort of combination of the fact that Craig spent a lot of weeks basically being part of the box setup and not really getting a lot of game time? He didn't have a lot of Currie Cup time over the last period, and also Stephen just having come back and not having a lot of Currie Cup game as well. Was it a communication issue with the line-out? In hindsight, what did you guys identify as the problem there? Because I mean, Craig's not a bad line-out thrower. He's not a bad hooker. I mean, you don't suddenly turn and become a bad hooker in one game.
Being the line-out expert that I am, Darren,
Well, you must have been party to the discussion afterwards.
No, you know what? It's in the line-outs. They always say it's generally one of a couple things. It's either a throw, it's the call, or it's a combination of both. And I think you nailed it on the head there with saying, like, poor old Birds. He had 204 minutes, I think, in the whole Super 15, and the Currie Cup's generally his opportunity to get his game going. In his first 3 games, his confidence grew, and he played so well that he managed to get selected for the box, which ultimately was great for him, but for his rugby it was probably the worst thing that could have happened, because he ended up being the third hooker, so not even making the match day 22 and getting no rugby again, So when he came back to us, it was like starting the season again, and going into big games you need confidence and form, and unfortunately I think when he missed his first couple lineouts, his confidence dropped, and he threw a few skew, and maybe we got a few calls wrong as well, I'm not too sure, but at the bottom of the line we missed 8 out of 13 lineouts, and in any final, if you're going to do that, you're putting yourself under big pressure to win it.
Was there any talk about maybe starting, I know it's a final, and everyone has said, listen, you don't go into a final and not run on with a Beast and a Willem Alberts and those guys, but was there thought of maybe doing what you guys did against the Bulls, because that bench that you guys brought on, and I mean with the Bulls you guys were already ahead, but the thinking must be that with a side that's got generally over most of the season Super Rugby and Currie Cup the best second half record of any side, not only I think locally but anywhere in the world when you include Super Rugby as well. Generally when you guys have been within 5 points of a side, you kind of back yourselves to win that game in the second half. Was there a thought of maybe repeating what you did with the Bulls and maybe leaving some of the guys that had a lot of rugby on the bench and trying to sort of manage the game up to then bring them on in the second half of that big push?
Not really, Darren. We felt we had integrated our box perfectly. The feeling with everyone was that we had done it right. The guys that came back from the box who hadn't had much game time, we put straight in, and the guys that had a fair amount came off the bench. And we treated really every case on merit. It wasn't like one fitted all. But it's also, it's you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah.
We've done that before in 2009. We picked the box straight in that semi-final against the Cheetahs, and we lost the semi-final at home, and everyone said, well, geez, you should have picked all your youngsters that had got you there. And then if you pick your experienced players and it doesn't go your way, then it's sort of, everyone can say that it was wrong as well. So, like I say, there's no right or wrong. Hindsight's always a perfect science, and you just don't know. But from our side, we thought we had it spot on, and certainly there was no lack of enthusiasm, and I think everyone that was on the field was giving their best. But unfortunately, on the day, if you make as many mistakes as we did, it's always going to be tough.
Yeah. What was the dressing room like afterwards? Because, I mean, there were province guys that were shocked. They weren't even expecting this. What was the general sort of chat or conversation, or was it just very quiet dressing room afterwards?
It was like a morgue, I mean, everyone was absolutely devastated, and in the pre-match, Plum's always good at his pre-match talks. He spoke about 1990, where there was a group of players that were going up to the Bulls to play the Bulls, who were absolute underdogs, and had no chance of winning the final, and it was just a warning to say, make sure we're not in that boat today, So we had crossed all our T's and dotted the R's, and pretty much given the warnings of what could happen if we weren't good on the day, and no one went out there with any intention of not giving of their best, and I don't think there are people that think that, because we've got a hell of a competitive team, and if you looked at those guys in the change room afterwards, there were a few tears, and people felt they'd let the whole of Durban and a lot of part of the country down, So Yeah, it's hugely disappointing, Darren, but unfortunately that's sport, you know, and
Yep.
you can run away from it, or you can hide, or not go out for a couple months, or lock yourself away, but it doesn't help, you know. You just got to get out there, face it, lift your chin up, and keep on going.
And do it again.
We
And
can't be that we can't be that bad if we've made the last 3 finals.
Exactly.
And, we'll get better, you know. We'll learn from this, and it just make us stronger.
I suppose the focus now is, as you say, it's a game. Look at the next one, and I was just when we were chatting a little earlier on with the Stormers guys on the bus, and we were just saying I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be too scared to make a call now where these two sides could be contesting the final of Super Rugby, because they've now confirmed Elton Jantjies coming through. Tata's going to go there as well. But when you look, you guys have got Butch coming back. You know, he'll probably be back up to a guy like Pat, who it looks like is now going to sort of stick around with that centre combination at fly half. I mean, and you got France there as well, who obviously wasn't part of this campaign. So, you know, those are two quality sides. You guys are maybe a little more at the top of your circle as far as the players who've, you know, building experience now. Province has still got and Stormers have got a young squad that they're dealing with. So these two are really quality sides, and it'll take a lot for any side to beat them in Super Rugby next year.
Well, you're right. I mean, one thing about this campaign and the Super 15, there'll be a lot of hurt in this group going forward, you know, that they'll want to prove to everyone that we can win finals again. And there's a lot of water that has to go under the bridge before you get to a final. But one thing that we're starting to get now is depth, Darren.
Yeah.
I mean, that Currie Cup, we got exposed pretty much as we could with all the box going at the end of the Super 15. We didn't have much preparation time because we played in the Super 15 final, and the Currie Cup started a week later. But there's a lot of youngsters that have put their hands up, and to win the Super 15, I'm telling you now, the one thing you've got to have is depth, because you can't expect big players to play every minute for as long a tournament as the Super 15 is. And we now have confidence in a lot of our youngsters that we can afford to freshen people up and give them time off and keep the whole squad really strong going forward.
Yeah. Just to comment, by the way, some people might have seen a tweet going around. It comes from Sharks World, who are obviously very pro. You know, tweet a lot about what goes down in Sharks rugby and stuff. Some people might be taking it seriously, but there is no chance Keegan Daniel and Craig Burden and who is the other one? Louis Ludik are going to the Bulls next year. It is a tongue-in-cheek article which basically saying the only way they'll get into the Springbok side is if they go and play for the Bulls. So do not take that seriously. They are going nowhere. All right, they are staying with the Sharks. Bashy, what about your future now? What's the story with you? Are you still with the Sharks now? Are you carrying on next year? What's the story?
Yeah, no, look, Reece and myself are out of contract at the end of this year, but I think BJ said to us that he'll have a chat to us next week, and the feeling is that we'll go forward with Plum's contract until the end of 2013.
Okay.
So the feeling is that we'll continue for next year, and then unfortunately in our jobs, Darren, it's campaign by campaign. You know, if you think of a poor old John Mitchell, I mean, he was lifting the Currie Cup this time last year, and he's contracted till the end of 2013, but he's nowhere in South Africa at the moment. So just the nature of the beast, you know. But I think so long as we keep going well and making finals and hopefully winning a few, we can keep our jobs here in Durban.
Well, I think you guys make a hell of a team, and I hope it continues for a lot longer than that as well. Obviously, as long as you guys want to keep doing it as well. So listen, I mean, I would still say the Sharks probably overall throughout the whole season the best side in our rugby in South Africa. Bad luck on both the finals, but as you say, look forward and focus on Super Rugby next year. I'm sure you guys are going to be back there. We really appreciate your time and chatting to us this afternoon, and enjoy what little break you've got, and good luck with the contract renewal chats.
Great. Thanks a lot, Darren. Chat to you soon.
Thanks.
All right, Bashy. Cheers, bud.
Let's go.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, John. Bye.
Cheers,
Bye.
bye.
All right, Grant Bashford joining us from Durban.
2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mondays to Fridays live on Ballz.co.za. Ballz.co.za.